Hi guys, so here we have Excel file, and this was posted in the Brightspace as well. And so if you download it, then you will have it, and it has top 20 cars, and then soft drinks and audit data. So we'll start looking at the top 20 cars. So when you open this data, you will see that we have sales for 2010 and 2011 for the manufacturer, and also according to the models of this. So in this case, we can see we have Honda Accord, Nissan Altima, Toyota Camry, and so forth. So by observing this data, you can see that Ford Fiesta has data for 2011, but we don't have data for 2010. So that means we may have problems to do some of the analysis, especially if we have to look at the growth rate. So when we have missing data, what we have to do is to look for that data. We can find it from these different sources where we know that the data is credible, either from the company itself, from the internet, and any other source that will be credible. And so you can fill in the sales for this company during this period. If you look at the data, and let's say if you observe the data vertically, you can see that we have cross-sectional data. For instance, if you look at the Honda Accord, you can see that we have sales for 2011. And so if we consider just this column, we can say that we have cross-sectional data. But when we consider the two columns where we can see data for 2010 and 2011, then we can say we have time series data, because we can look at the data from one period of time to the other. So we can observe Honda Accord for these two periods of time, and that's what we call time series data. Also, we have the models and manufacturers. And so here we are observing the type of models, and therefore this is non-numerical data. For the manufacturer as well, we have non-numerical data. And if you look at this data, you can see that we don't have decimal points, and so our data is discrete, and these are just values. We sold cars by this much, so this could be in terms of dollars. So we can do a number of analyses based on this data, but I'm going to ask you to keep the original as it is. So we can copy the data, just copy, and then open another worksheet where you can rename it, let's say, top 20 cars. So this time it's going to be 2. Or you can put analysis, but we are keeping original data as is. So now we have copied our data. No, we haven't copied our data. So let me copy and paste data in this new worksheet. How do we do that? So in the original data file, just highlight this and then copy. You can right click and then you can copy. So when you copy, you can see this is active, and so you can go here and just paste here in this folder or in this file. So let me enlarge this a little bit so we will be able to see the operations or calculations that we're going to apply to this type of data. Now, we may be interested to know if we have sales for 2011 March and 2010 2010 March. So we may be interested to see, let's say, the growth rate. To find the growth rate, let me put it here. To find the growth rate, we will use the following formula. First, put equal sign, click on the current data, which is 2011, minus the previous data. Make sure that you close the brackets, and then put slash as divide, and we're going to divide by the previous data. So that is the formula for the growth rate, and we can make it either in decimal points or in percentage. So let's enter. So you can see we have the growth rate for this first product, and we have more than 1 decimal point, more than 2 decimal points. So we can actually make this 2 decimal points by clicking on this arrow. We can decrease the decimal or we could increase the decimal, but at this time we are going to decrease the decimals. So I'm going to click here until when it is 0.15. Now we know that the formula to create this was take this minus this, divide by this value. So we'll do the same for all these products. And in that case, we could actually copy this formula without doing for each one of these. And we can duplicate if we can hold on here and drag this down, or we can actually double click. So if you drag down, you can see up to where up to this point, we could actually find also the growth rate for these other products, or we could actually double click here. And so you can see the growth rate. Now, as I said, you can see we cannot find the growth rate for Ford Fiesta because we don't have data for 2010. So if there is no data in that case, then we will need to exclude Ford Fiesta. However, so in this case, I'm going to remove the growth rate for this product, or for this for the Ford Fiesta. Now you can see that we have minus growth rate, meaning that sales from 2010 to 11 decreased, and also we have some where we can see they have actually very positive increase in sales, like Hyundai Elantra, and you can see Nissan Sentra as well, and some others you can see they have minus. Now we need to get information from what we have done, and the first information which we can get from this is which product or which manufacturer and which even model that had the highest growth rate and which model had the least growth rate. So you don't have to go and find where you can find it the highest and where we can find it the lowest, but rather we will use our Excel function to organize our data in a way that we can see the highest and the lowest. So if you click this column, you can go to the sort. So here I have sort, and you can click, you can see that you can sort your data from the smallest to the largest, or from the largest to the smallest, or even you can do the custom sort. So let me do the custom sort. And you can see that we are asked to expand the selection. We are asked if you want to expand selection, meaning that we're not only changing this column, but also everything should change. So that's okay. So I can click sort, and now we are required to sort by. So we have extended this to cover everything. So do we want to sort our data based of the manufacturer, based of the model, based of the sales of March or sales of March 2011 or 2010, or sort by the growth rate? Our interest is with the growth rate. So I'm going to select sort by growth rate. And then I want to start from the largest to the smallest, of which you could also start from the smallest to the largest. And so I'll change this largest to the smallest. And that's all. So I can click OK. And now you can see everything has changed. We have the highest growth rate, which is Hyundai Elantra, followed by Nissan Sentra. And we have the smallest or the least growth rate, which is Nissan Versa, as well as Toyota Camry. So we can actually write a report for this, meaning that Hyundai Elantra had the highest growth rate for this period of time, and Nissan Versa had the least growth rate for this particular period of time. And that's actually very useful information. Now, we can also do more than that. You can see we have Toyota Camry as the second model that had the least growth rate. And also you can see Toyota Corolla was also one among the 5 models that had the least growth rate. And so the question is, we always know that Toyota sells more. And you can see also we have Toyota Prius here. And so we know that Toyota has more than one model. And we would like to see which model sold more than the other for just Toyota. We could pick up any other product, any other manufacturer, and see and compare it. So at this moment, let's just select Toyota to see how Toyota models performed at this period of time. So we are going to filter everything and just leave Toyota. So how do we filter our data? So you can, we're interested with manufacturer, and so we need to filter everything but Toyota. So just go to the sort and filter. So I'm going to drop down, instead of sorting this from smallest to the largest or largest to the smallest, and even custom sort, but I'm going to select filter. So when you select filter, then you will see we have this drop down thing here, and if you click it, you will see that we have all this selection. You can deselect all and then go down and just select Toyota, and so we can apply the filter. Once we apply the filter, you can see now we have just Toyota as manufacturer, and we have 3 models. So if you look here, you can see Prius had the highest growth rate as compared to Corolla and also Camry. However, if you look at Toyota Camry, you can see that sales went down from 36,251 to 31,464, but still it is the largest sales as compared to Prius and Corolla. So still Corolla was selling, Camry was selling, but the growth rate went down. Here we have this Prius where we have small sales in 2010 as compared to the other 2 products. And also they have significant growth of 0.58. And so we could ask what happened. Now, to be able to find what happened with Camry, that it had negative growth rate, and Prius had positive growth rate and significant growth rate as compared to the other two during this period of time, then we can go to different sources to find what happened during this period of time. And when we know what happened, then we could write story based off the data and based off the information which we have, and that will be the evidence. One of the information which we can find is Toyota Prius. At this period of time, they had the hybrid. They made hybrid of Toyota Prius, and I'm not sure if Camry did the same. And so people were interested with the hybrid cars at this time, and so Prius could have sold more because they had the efficient type of cars. So if that's the case, then we can say, well, that was a good indication that people were interested with efficient cars, and so the other models could also copy the same. Or we can say that Toyota tried to work on its least type of its model, which was Prius, to see if to test in the market, and then thereafter it could follow with the other two models. So you can write a story based off the evidence which we have here. So now we can go back to the original data. First of all, let's open another worksheet, and let's rename this as top 20 cars, and now this is number 3. And we can copy the data again, copy and paste your data in the new worksheet so we can do some other work there. So here I have my data. Still, let me increase the size, and let me do the growth rate, and I'll do exactly the same as what we did before. So in this case, we are going to learn something different. Instead of even organizing this according to ascending or descending order, we could leave as it is and use what we call conditional formatting to show how the growth rate behaved, or to talk about the growth rate. So just leave B at home. Just now go and find conditional formatting is here. And if you click on conditional formatting, hold on first, let me click on the growth rate, and I'm going to go to the conditional formatting if I don't want to do any change here. So let me repeat again. So let's say I don't want to organize data or to sort data from the highest to the smallest, but if I want to keep these manufacturers and the models as they are, I could use conditional formatting to show the data and to show the performance in terms of the growth rate. So you can go here and see that we have conditional formatting, and if you click on it, there are all these options that we can use to indicate this performance, the performance in terms of the growth rate. So if you click this on this column and go to conditional formatting, you could highlight cells, or we could use highlight cells rules, and in this case we can find values greater than. or values less than. Even we can find values between. Let's say we can look at values between 0 and 0 point something. Or we could find values which are equal to a particular value, and so forth. So probably let's look at values which are greater than. And so if you click there, you can see that we can look at the values which are greater than a particular value. So in this case, we can define, let's say, greater than 0. So we would like to see the growth rates that are greater than 0, not the minuses. So if you click OK, you can see that the highlighted values have the growth rate that is greater than 0. And you can see only few of these are less than 0. So we can identify what we want easily by actually changing the color or by highlighting them. So that's one approach. You could as well highlight cells which are less than. And so in this case, we can decide anything that is less than a particular value. Let's say 0. And if you click OK, you can see that only values that are less than 0 are highlighted, and you can easily identify them. You can see they are Toyota, Camry, Ford, Focus, Chevy, Malibu, and Nissan Versa. So we could highlight the cells, or we could use something different. We can look at top, bottom rows. So in this case, we can look at the top 10 items, or we can look at the top 2 items. So let's click this and select the top 2 models in terms of the growth rate. So if you click OK, you can see we have only 2, which are Hyundai Elantra and also Nissan Sentra. Or we could look at the bottom 10 items, and so we can go with the 2 bottom to top values. So if you click OK, you can see we have Toyota Camry and Nissan Versa there. These 2 are highlighted. We can use more of this conditional formatting. For instance, we can use data bars, and therefore we can show the growth rate by using the bar charts. So you can see that Hyundai Elantra has the bar charts indicate that this is the highest. This one also, Nissan Sentra, is better. Is actually is big, and also Kia Soul. And you can see those that are negative are indicated by red color. So in this case, you can use the bar charts to show the performance of this growth rate. Or you can use color scale. For instance, you can use any color scale you want. So you can see the red one is the highest, and the blue Nissan Versa is the lowest or the least, followed by this 2 and this one here and the other. So you can see we have highlighted values according to their levels, and they're highlighted differently. And so we could also use icons if you want, and more of this. So conditional formatting is actually important. As I said, if you don't want to change anything, so you don't have to organize your data from the lowest to the highest or highest to the lowest. If you want to keep things as they are, so you just use conditional formatting. Just choose from it anything that you think is okay, and then show the performance. So that's all about the conditional formatting. So I'm going to ask you to use conditional formatting to format the data, and feel free to choose any of this, either highlight cells rules, top bottom rows, data bars, or color scale. Now we can move to another set of data that we have, and that is the soft drinks. So in this case, you can see that we have sodas, and this is sample data. We have sodas that are maybe the which are sold, and so you can see we have Coke, Diet Coke, Pepsi, Diet Coke, and so forth. So you can see these products are listed a number of times, and it may mean that a soda is recorded when it's bought or when it's consumed. And so we can say this is the raw data. This data is not organized, and we need to organize this data so that we can get the meaning out of it. Now we know that this is non-numerical data or non-numerical data set. We have the names of the sodas. And so how do we organize non-numerical values? We can actually organize them by counting. Remember, we can count how many Coca-Cola are there, how many Pepsi, how many any of this product. And so we can see the frequency of occurrence. So to organize ourselves, we can put the number where we're going to list them. Just list those values and more. And then let's look at the item, and let's see the frequency. Also, let me highlight this. So we will organize this in terms of items and their frequencies. So let's start with the first item. I'm going to put equal sign and click any product here. Let's say I'm going to click on Coke, meaning that will refer to this cell here. If you enter, you can see that we are referring to the Coke. And so put equal sign, click on the Diet Coke and enter. And so put equal sign again, click on the Pepsi and enter. We have already selected Diet Coke, but not Dr. Pepper. So I'm going to put equal sign and select Dr. Pepper and enter. So we haven't selected Sprite. So I'm going to select Sprite and enter. And if I check, I have already selected all of them. So I'll extend this count to 5. So we have 5 products. After we have listed these items, we can now find the frequency of occurrence, meaning that we're going to see how many times Coke was sold or listed. So from this list, we're going to count them, and therefore just put equal sign and click and type count. But our interest is to count if it's just Coke. And so we're going to count if. And so select this function. And so we're going to look at the overall range, and criteria will be Coke. So let me select these 2 columns and put comma sign, and criteria will be Coke. And so I'll close the bracket and enter. So from these 2 columns, we tried to find where we have Coke, and we counted it, and so we have 19. Now we can copy the formula way down by just double click. Remember, we put the mouse there, double click, or we can actually drag it all the way down. And so you can see that we have these two products that were counted 5-5, and we have Coke, which is 19, followed by Pepsi. And so we can actually say something from the data that Coca-Cola was listed more than any other product, and Dr. Pepper and Sprite were the least in this. So we can make some decisions knowing that the Coca-Cola is more important. I mean, people prefer more Coke than Sprite and Dr. Pepper. So let's say it is a kiosk or a corner store that you own it and you are selling soda. And you can see that you have 19, you are selling more of Coca-Cola and less of Dr. Pepper and Sprite. So the question is, should you remove these products or should you keep them and probably add more Coca-Cola? So from this information, we can actually find the possibilities or the chances of selling a product if the customer comes in. And so let's find relative frequency. So relative frequency, it means we're going to see the chance of each of these products out of the total. So let's type here the total of all. So just put equal sign and type sum. And in this case, we are looking at the summation of all this. And so close the bracket and enter. You can see that we have a list of 50 overall. And out of 50, we have 19 Coca-Cola. So to find the relative frequency, just put equal sign, take 19 divided by 50, meaning that it is 19 out of 50. It means 19 Coca-Cola out of the total values, or total from the list. So we have 0.38, and now we can do the same for Diet Coke, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, and Sprite. And all we're going to do is they will all refer to 50, meaning that we will take 8 out of 50, 13 out of 50, 5 out of 50, and 5 out of 50. So we need to copy this formula. So let's try to do the following by mistakes first, and I'll show you. So if you double click here, you can see that we don't have anything here. We have those like no value. So if you double click, you will see that here we have G3 divided by G8. So the more you move down, the more we are moving down. Where we have empty cell, we are not referring to 50. So even this one, let's double click here. You can see we are taking G6 and G6. So we're taking this G6 divided by G11, where we have no values. So all we can do is to lock down this value here. So if I double click there, you can see we need all these values to refer to G7, this value here. So we have to lock it down, and we can do so by just typing the $ around and enter. We need the $ around this G7. So you can type the $ there, but if you're using Windows, you can click on F4 key and then it will put the dollar sign. So you put the mouse here, click F4, and then the dollar sign will be in both. If you're using MacBook, it is you can hold down Function and F4. So let me try. Let me remove the dollar sign. So we have G7 and we want to lock G7, which is this one. So I'm using Mac. I'm going to hold down Function and click F4. And so you can see the dollar sign. We have the dollar signs around G. So that means we have locked down this cell. Now you can enter. And in this case, if you drag them down, you can see that we have values. In fact, I can also go up to this point. So you can see at this point here, we have 50 divided by 50. Or here you can see we have 5 divided by G7. So you could see that G7 is maintained as you move up and down, because we locked this down by putting the dollar signs. So that's what we have. I mean, now we have relative frequency. So remember, probability is a value between 0 and 1 that measures the occurrence of an event to occur. And in this case, we have values from 0 to 1. Therefore, we can actually call these probability values. They showed the chance of occurrence of these products. So let's consider Coke. We can say that there is 0.38 chance that if the customer comes in the store and buys soda, that the customer will buy Coke. Let me repeat again. There is 0.38 chance that if customer comes in and buy a soda, he or she will buy Coke. And also, if the customer walks in and if that customer buys soda, there is 0.16 chance that the customer will buy Diet Coke. Also, there is 0.26 chance that if the customer comes in, that customer will buy Pepsi. So for Sprite and Dr. Pepper, you can see the chance of selling Dr. Pepper or Sprite is 0.1. In fact, we can express this in terms of percentage. And so I'll type there the percentage relative frequency. And so to find the percentage relative frequency, I will copy all these values in this column. So I will put equal sign and refer to this value and enter. So I will copy this down. If I double click here, everything will be copied down. So I have the same values, but I would like to change this from the decimal points to percentage. And so I will click here, the percent style. And so if you click, you can see we can express these values in terms of percentage. In this case, you can see that there is 38% chance that if the customer comes in and buys soda, the customer will buy Coke. There is 10% chance that if the customer buys soda, the customer will buy Dr. Pepper, and so forth. So should we remove Dr. Pepper and Sprite? We are selling at least, we are selling, but not as much as Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So we can make any decision we want. We can actually say, well, don't sell Dr. Pepper and Sprite, or just keep them. So we're going to go with the reason why we should keep Dr. Pepper and Sprite, although we are not selling them a lot. So in this case, we can do what we call cumulative percentage relative frequency. Cumulative percentage relative frequency. So this is how this works. Now, if we decided to just have Coca-Cola, then that means there is 38% chance of selling Coca-Cola if customer walks in. But we have the remaining out of 100% that the customers will not buy soda if only Coke is sold. So let's put equal sign and refer to 38%. Now, we would like to increase the chance of selling soda if a customer comes in. And so we can put Coca-Cola and that Coke together. So we are going to have them cumulatively. So we put equal sign, type sum, and in this case, we are going to add Coke and that Coke. So we select the two of them and close the bracket. So now you can see chances of selling sodas is increasing when we have Coke and that Coke. So we can say that if a customer comes to the store, when we have two products, there is 58% chance that the customer will buy soda if we have only Coca-Cola and that Coke. So let's increase our chances. So put equal sign, type summation, and now we're going to sum Coke, that Coke, and Pepsi. If we put all these three products in the store, what are the chances of selling soda if customer walks in? So there is 80% chance that we can sell soda if a customer comes in and if we have Coke, that Coke, and Pepsi. But still we have 20% chance that the customer will not buy soda if we don't have other products. And 20% is actually significant. So why don't we add Dr. Pepper here? So put equal sign and type sum. And now we're going to add Coca-Cola, that Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper. Close the bracket and enter. So you can see we have 90% chance of selling soda when customer comes in if we have these four varieties. Still, we have 10% chance of not selling soda if a customer comes in and find that this is the only variety, these are the only variety of soda that we have. So if we add Sprite, what will happen? So let's add Sprite. So we can sum all this and enter. So you can see if we have all these 5 products and if the customer comes in, there is a 100% chance that the customer will buy soda. Which soda the customer will buy? There is 38% chance that the customer will buy Coke. There is 16% chance that they will buy that Coke. 26% for Pepsi. 10% for both Dr. Pepper and Sprite. So this is what we call cumulative relative frequency. We could do cumulative frequency or cumulative relative frequency, but that's how we can explain this. Now let's go to audit data. So we have year-to-end audit times in days. So we have values listed. These are the audits that were done or were listed. Now you can see these are numerical values, and we want to find the frequency of occurrence of all those values. So for numerical values, we don't count the way we could do with the non-numeric values like soft drinks. So in this case, we're going to do this differently. Now, one of the things that we can do is to put these values in separate baskets. And we can decide how many baskets do we need to put all these values. So here we can decide on the number of bins or baskets. So we may decide to create 10 bins, 8 bins, 9 bins, 5 bins or less, but it is advised that we should have a good number of bins, not too much, not too less. So in this case, we can decide to create 5 bins. And so we want to put these values into 5 bins. We call them categories. And so after we have decided on the number of bins, then we would like to determine from which value to which value should go to the first bin, or the second bin, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So that's what we call the limit, or in this case, we have decided to have 5 number of bins. And the next thing is to approximate the bin width. So we're going to find which value or which values should go to the first bin, second bin, and the third bin, and so up to 5 bin. Which of these values should go to a particular bin? And so we need to approximate the bin width. And in this case, we'll find the range of values that will go to each bin. So the formula is range divided by the number of bins. So that is the formula for approximating the bin width. Range divided by the number of bins. So how do we find range? Range can be found when you take the highest value or the maximum value minus minimum value. So in this case, let's find the maximum value from this data set. So just put equal sign and type max, and that's the maximum value. And then select all these values and close the bracket. So the highest value from this is 33. Let's find the lowest value or the minimum value. So put equal sign, type min, select it, and we are looking at the minimum value from all these values or from this data set. And if you enter, we have the minimum to be 12. So now we can find range. Just put equal sign and take 33 minus the minimum value. If you can enter, we have 21. Remember, to approximate the bin width, we have to take range divided by the number of bins. This number of bins actually was the we just decided on. We could say any number of bins, let's say 6, 7, or whichever value. So the bin width is just put equal sign, take range, divide by 5. And so it is 4.2. That is the bin width. However, we have to round up because we don't have decimal points here. So we're going to round this up so that 4.2 can be included. And so that will be the approximate 5. Approximate. We approximate the value to be 5. So that's the bin width. So after we have bin width, now we're going to put our baskets. We have 1, 2, 3, and 5. These are the baskets or the bins. And so here we're going to have limits. And the limits will be the lowest value that can go to the first bin and the highest value up to what value. So remember, we are approximating the bin width. And in this case, you can see we have 12 as our minimum. So we can decide to go with the lowest to be 10. If we have any 10 here, we'll go to the first bin. That's the and the highest will be, we count 5 values from here. From 10. So we'll start from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that will be 5 values. So we're going to write 14, not 15, because 10 is included. Remember, we want to put 5. The bin width will be 5. So we start from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that will account for 5 values. We start counting from 10 to 14. Now, so you can see we have 14th of October. It means we need to change this and make sure that it reads like text. So go up here, select the text. So now we can go back and type 10 to 14, and so this will read as text. Now we can go down here. We're going to start from 15. We count from 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That will be 5. So we have 19. And then we'll start from 20. Remember, this should not, the values which will go here will not double here. So that's why we start from 20 to 24, and then 25, 29, and then 30 to 34. So you can see that 33, which is the highest value, will be in here. So let's see what are the values that will be from 10 to 14. Here you can see we have 12, 14, and then we have 14. So actually 3 values will be in this bin. But all we need to do is to put these limits, we would like to use Excel. We need to use Excel function, and we cannot apply Excel function to the text. So what we're going to do is let's put the highest limit, not the lowest limit, but the highest limit of the value. So in this case, we'll take 14, 19, 24, 29, and 34. So that means the first basket will take values up to 14. And the second one will take from 15 up to 19. And the other one will take values from 20 up to 24. This one is 25 to 29, and the other one is from 30 to 34. So we took the highest limit, not the lowest limit. So in this case, we can actually apply Excel function. So let's see frequency. Let's calculate the frequencies of the values that will go to each basket. So I want you to do the following. Highlight all these values. And don't do anything. Just after you have highlighted, don't move the mouse, don't do anything, just put equal sign. And you can see still those cells are highlighted, and type frequency. So select frequency. You can see still these cells are highlighted, but we want to find the frequency. So here we have data array. So we'll select all these values, then put comma, and then highlight the bins array. And so this is our bins array. Close the bracket, don't do anything. But now you're going to hold down Control Shift keys and then enter. So for me, I'm going to hold down Control Shift keys and then enter. So you can see we have frequency for all these bins. So you can see the first one will contain 4 items. Initially, I thought there were 3. So there should be 4. Actually, we have 12, 14, 14, and 13. So 4 items will go to the first category or the first bin. 8 will go to the second bin. 5 will go to the third. 2 to the fourth bin, and only 1 will fall in the fifth bin. So the same way we can find the total and the total frequency, and so we can put equal sign, find the summation of all these values, close the bracket and enter. Now you can see that we have actually 20 values. And out of these 20 values, 4 of them will be in the first basket. 8 out of 20 will be in the second basket. And so forth up to the last one, which is 1 of these values out of 20 will go to the fifth basket. So in this case also, you can find relative frequency. And we're going to do exactly the same as the way we did for the soft drink, where we will put equal sign, click on the first or the frequency for the first bin, divide by the total, which is 20. In this case, we could actually make times 100. So let's close the bracket. So in this case, if we do so, you can see we have 20, and that is the percentage relative frequency. Or you could do like just put equal sign, take 4, divide by 20, and enter. which is 0.2, and so you can find the percentage, which is 20. Now, in this case, we would like to copy way down the formula. So double click here and lock down this 20 as we did by putting the $sign. You're going to see I put the $sign between this cell and enter. So we could copy the formula way down. And so you can see that we have the percentage relative frequency. And so we could also find cumulative relative frequency, meaning that if we combine the bins, if you take the first bin and the second bin, what will be the chance? If when you have only one bin, we have 20% chance that we have 20% chance that if we select all these values, a value will fall into the first bin. In this case, if you combine 1 and 2, so we can combine these two, so we have 60%, meaning that there is 60% chance that if you select, if you have these two baskets, and if you pick any value here, there is that value will be in between the two. So probably let's do so. Let's go with the cumulative percentage relative frequency. So let's see what is the chance that if you pick a value here, that value will be in the first bin. So the chance will be 20%. Or there is 20% chance that if you pick a value here, that value will go to the first bin. And so what if we combine both the bins, the first and the second one? So we'll put equal sign type summation of these two bins and close the bracket. So there is 60% chance that if you combine those two bins, any value that will be taken will fall into them. So why don't we combine the three bins? So put equal sign and let's have the sum of these three bins, close the bracket. So that means if you combine these three bins together, now if you pick any value, there is 85% chance that a value will be within these three bins. So if you could put equal sign again, let's expand the chances. Now put these four bins together. So that means we'll find the sum of all this and enter. So now we have increased our chances to 95%, meaning that if you combine all these four bins together, there is 95% chance that if you select the value, that value will be within these four bins. So let's look at all of them. So we'll sum all these values and close the bracket. So if you put all these bins together and if you select all this value, there is 100% chance that that value will be within these 5 bins when you put all of them together. So now we may decide to create histogram either of the frequency or relative frequency or cumulative frequency. Because once we have values, we can also show them by using visualization. And so in this case, we can create histogram. And all we have to do is to click on the insert and first of all, select values. So I'm going to select, I will hide this column so I can select the limits from 10 to 14 and see the frequency. So let me hide this column. Let me hide it for now. And so I'll draw the histogram for the limit and the frequency. So in this case, you can see here we have statistical, and that's for Mac. If you can drop down, you can see that we have histogram. So you can select the histogram. But this is how it shows, and it's not actually done well. So I'm going to remove this and do it the other way. So let's select these values, go to the insert. Now I want you to go to recommended charts, or you could use the column chart. So if you go to the recommended charts, we have these column charts, so you can select them. And let's do some modifications. So click on any of this column. So I'm going to click on this. You can see that they are all selected, and I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to format data series. So let me click on the format data series, and here you can see we have gap width, and I'm going to make it 0%, so I'll move it to 0. So you can see I have closed the gaps, and so you can change the colors if you want. Um, and do anything you want as long as you have already created this. So that's all. Now you can see that we have the histogram, and you can see how this histogram looks like. It is right skewed. Now for the soft drink, we will draw something a little different. For the soft drink, we'll create the pie chart to see or to show uh, the percentage of each of these particular products to the total. So you can go to the insert and click on the pie chart. Let's go with the 3D. And so, in fact, we are looking at the pie chart of this, of the relative frequency. So I want to find the pie chart for those. So just go to 3D. And so you can see we have this one. And we can modify this. Just change the heading to whatever you want it to be. And because I'm using Mac, I can go to the Add Chart element. So the title should be selected, which is, the title should be selected. We can put the title above the chart, and then we can select another chart. So let's go to the labels. We can label them, but or not. We can create the labels. We can remove the legends and do anything that we want to improve this. So So in this case, you can do some modifications to the pie chart as you want. You can actually work on the label, and because I'm using Mac, I can use add chart elements. If you're using Windows, you can see the options which will be listed here. However, you can also add values. So you can go here and put the data labels. And so you can put the values inside. You can see them here. Also, I can remove the legends. And so that's how I can create the pie chart. And so you can see the big percentage is taken by Coca-Cola, followed by this one, 16 and both, and 10 and 10. So that's how we can present our data graphically. And that's for the non-numerical values. But for the numerical values, we could actually create the histogram.